Okay, 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 what's going on? I just, the game's not even loaded. I'm getting freaking attacked. What the crap's going on? Okay, okay, that's fair. All right. So what's the story of this Cube World game? It's certainly grabbing a lot of attention as of late. I think it has to do with the fact that the game looks somewhat similar to that of Minecraft. A world completely made of voxels? Pretty similar to Minecraft, right? Well, actually no. The game, while perhaps taking inspiration from Minecraft, is actually more similar to games such as Zilla, or even World of Warcraft. Wolfram von Funk, what the f*** is that, like German or something, is the man behind the title. However, you most likely know him by his online alias of Wally. Yeah, that's a bit better. Wally is a designer and the coder of Cube World, and of course the initial creator of the game. He and his wife have been developing the game since mid-2011, and he claims the game is his first serious project. Whatever that means. Frankly, I'm a huge fan of his ass-face adventures. If you ask me, that's certainly not a game to take lightly. So yeah, I'm not really sure why he considers Cube World to be his first serious project, but you know, whatever, I digress. So if Wally's been working on the game since 2011, how come it's just recently the game has been enticing so many gamers? Well, that would be due to the fact that the game has officially been released as July 3rd. Well, the alpha version at least. But much like Minecraft, the game is available to the public to purchase, even at such an early state the game is currently in. The game has been brought to my attention, however, through the communications via my friends. I heard them discussing the game, and of course being me, I abruptly interjected the conversation with the question, hey, isn't Cube World that MMO that's been in development for quite some time? Needless to say, I was correct. My prior knowledge of the game actually coming from YouTube. You see, Wally's been uploading videos for his game for over 2 years now, showcasing different builds of the game, and of course the incorporated features. I accidentally stumbled across one of his videos one day and was rather intrigued with what I saw. Of course, at the time, I thought the game was already released to the public. Perhaps not in a stable state, but playable nonetheless. However, it wasn't until recently the game was officially released. And damn, it certainly has started an online phenomenon. At the point of this review, the game has already established a wiki and a huge fan base uploading numerous Cube World videos as I speak. I was so fascinated with the game, I decided to purchase it. However, there was one factor regarding the game that rather concerned me. The price. $20 for a game that's currently in alpha is a bit steep, and for a few reasons too. The first and most obvious reason is just the fact that buying any game before it's officially released is rather risky. You'll never actually know how much more of the game will actually be completed. What if the people developing the game went bankrupt? You don't know if that will happen. Another reason $20 is a bit much is because Cube World, as far as content is concerned, is a bit vague. And again, if your argument is, well, that's just because it's an alpha, my initial response will be, well, does a game in alpha state really justify a $20 price tag? The third and last reason the value might not meet the content is actually just the time it was released. Just think to yourself for a moment, is there any huge sale that is ongoing momentarily? Perhaps one that's solely based on game discounts? Unless you've been living under a rock, you undoubtedly know we're partaking Steam's summer sale. This isn't Wally's fault, but seriously, could this have come out at a worse time? The $20 you spent on Cube World could easily translate to 4 or 5 AAA games on Steam. I mean, just look at these deals. Castle Crashers for $374, Terraria for $250, Deus Ex Human Revolution 85% off? I mean, just look at these deals. I mean, Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition, $5? Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I gotta go. I gotta go buy games. Okay, sorry about that. I was just emptying my wallet. Where were we? Oh, that's right, yeah, Cube World. Yeah, the game's rather pricey. Of course, if the game's enjoyable, then the price is justified. So is Cube World fun? Yeah, it's pretty good. But here, let's take a more illustrative approach. Before I begin making remarks regarding the gameplay, please note, again, this is a review of the game's alpha version, and the game and all the features included will certainly be changed sooner or later. Cube World, at the core, is essentially MMORPG, in which your blocky character can explore a random generating voxel world. Prior to adventuring, you can create your character using different presets. You can choose from a handful of different creatures, with my personal favorite being the frog. So it reminds me of the frog from Chrono Trigger, actually. The character customization lacks more to be desired. You really don't have much freedom differentiating your character from other characters players have made. And when choosing some classes such as the frog, the bottom color palette doesn't even come to use. You have 4 classes to choose from when creating a character. The warrior, the ranger, the mage, and the rogue. Typical stuff. All of which, as one may expect, all start with different weapons and different playstyles. Each class also has 3 different special skills that can be learned via leveling up. However, if you're anything like me, you'll only be using 1. Yeah. Typically in games with distinguished classes, I always choose a class that heavily relies on the use of melee. So then why is it that I favor the ranger then? That would be because the classes presented here are absurdly unbalanced. Even from as early as level 1, this can clearly be perceived. Just observe how immense of a time gap between the 4 classes it takes to defeat the same enemy. In all honesty though, I definitely want to put up with classes such as the warrior if it wouldn't be for the fact that it takes such a taxing amount of time to level up. This is mainly because of the game's inability to determine how stronger an enemy is in correlation to your character. Unlike most MMOs where you'll be notified of enemies level parallel to your own, Cube World uses a very different system. While you won't be given the exact number of enemy strength, as far as levels are concerned at least, you will however be advised if the enemy is stronger or weaker than your current level. An name in white font denotes that the enemy you're currently engaging is weaker than you. Blue depicts that it is your level. Enemies of orange font are slightly more powerful than you. And if an enemy's name is in red, supposedly the enemy is much stronger than you and you shouldn't attempt to onset combat with it. Tip of advice? Find enemies with red font that you can actually damage and go for them. No, I'm not kidding. Ironically, it's usually the enemies claim to be my level that kill me. A skeleton is my level, really? Then why is it harder to kill than something that's supposed to be stronger than me? Killing enemies at your level is only slightly easier than enemies with a red font. The difference? The payout. Foes at your level will give you next to no XP. So in all honesty, your time is probably better spent fighting squirrels and raccoons, or anything else that's quote-unquote stronger than you. If an enemy is claimed to be stronger than you and gives you a substantial amount of experience, it should be harder to kill. This is Gaming 101 here. Speaking of unfair scaling, for the first few levels, all you'll really be doing is just walking around looking for something that won't completely kick your ass. This, of course, is due to the randomly generating terrain, which is a really questionable choice in an RPG. How would you like if in Pokemon you're just killing some enemies that strike no problem, and then you take 2 more steps in overworld and BAM!
Number 100 pigeon, bitch!
That's neither fair nor balanced. And there you go, there's Cube World. You see, randomly generating terrain and enemies work in a game like Minecraft because nothing really strikes as a real threat until you create or find ways to access other parts of the game. And aside from that, Minecraft's lack of world design is acceptable due to how much power the player is given. It's the ultimate goal of the player to craft the world in his or her own image. So essentially, it's up to the player to create the level design. Cube World, on the other hand, does not give you the power to do so. So it's questionable why Wally designed the game to have randomly generating terrain rather than having a predetermined unique level design. So yeah, due to the randomly generating terrain, the game is poorly structured as far as RPGs go. This is really unfortunate because exploring generated structures such as castles is actually quite fun. And if the game were to have a giant world with landmarks and identifiable terrain such as games as World of Warcraft, Cube World would certainly be more of a memorable experience. Another problem randomly generating terrain strikes is just a lack of, well, anything really. And regardless of what level you are, a majority of the gameplay is just spent just walking around. Not fighting enemies, not exploring dungeons, just walking around. Again, pulling a comparison to Minecraft, when you explore the world and fundamentally just wander off, you typically do so because you have something in mind you're searching for. However, in a game like Cube World, you'll wander off looking for something to do. Well, that's enough of me tearing apart the game's lack of structure. So how's the game's combat? Despite everything I've said regarding Cube World, I do have to say that combat is very intuitive. Not too simple, not too complicated, and it works. If anything, the combat is definitely a redeeming factor of Cube World. The combat, as one may expect, differs depending on the class you have chosen, and among that, the combat and the controls will change for certain weapons. There is certainly a lot of diversity and options given to the player when the time comes to completely murder something.
Good.
The left mouse button, for the most part, is your standard attack, while the right mouse button is your more powerful method of attacking. Of course, these moves require you to hold the mouse button to charge your attack. Well, all the classes with the exception of the ranger that can just do that. In addition to your attacks located on the mouse, the 1, 2, and 3 keys allow you to perform special attacks exclusive to each class. Although unlike standard attacks, these attacks have a bit of downtime. However, your duration between the special's accessibility can be decreased via spending skill points in a particular skill whenever you level up. But a game with a third-person perspective wouldn't be very engrossing without some method of defending or dodging, right?
Of course!
Fortunately for Cube World though, the middle mouse button is pertained for the use of a roll. Whenever you roll, it decreases your stamina, and if you do not have the correct amount of stamina, you simply cannot roll until the required stamina is replenished. The feature of a roll maneuver adds a lot of strategy to the combat. While it doesn't exactly work on all the enemies that go apeshit on you, it is an effective method of dodging attacks thrown via enemies that strike in a pattern. The only complaint I have with the combat is actually just the controls itself. The placement of the buttons that implement special attacks is just awkward. Just change controls, right? Nope. There is no control configuration in sight. And in a game with this many controls, it's just incomprehensible. Honestly, a key config in an MMORPG is just seems like a no-brainer. And the game is obviously in need of one. But being as it is my only complaint regarding combat, overall I must admit it holds up rather strong. So in the end, how does Cube World hold up as a whole? I mean, it's fairly fun, but it's fun in the same sense a mobile game is. After a while, you'll start to notice the game more than not starts to drag on. And if you're looking for a game to play every now and then, that's completely fine. But personally, I expect a lot more from a game with a price tag of $20. Cube World has a lot of missed potential, and this can be quite apparent as all the attributes defining the game are either hit or miss. The combat is crazy addictive, but the exploration is rather dull and tedious. Visuals are charming and clean, but nothing within the world is easy to differentiate amongst other entities. Nothing regarding the game really stood out for me, and it certainly didn't have too many memorable characteristics. I really don't like to give negative feedback aimed at an indie title. Nonetheless, everything I've stated is completely genuine, and more than anything, I want to provide you guys with a candid review. Then again, to the game's credit, it is an alpha, and I do fully comprehend this fact. On the other hand, however, the game is still $20, and $20 for a game in alpha state, again, is a bit steep. If you're already set on purchasing the game, don't let me prevent you from doing so. But for everyone else interested in the title, I'd perhaps wait to see what features, if any, will be implemented in later versions. Cubeworld receives a 3 out of 5 with the label of aspiring.